The quiet ship. The alien salvage team drifted silently through space. Their sensors had picked up something strange near a dead moon, a small, silent warship. It wasn't moving. It wasn't sending any signal. To them, it looked like junk. The ship was clearly human. Its design was old, rough, and simple compared to modern alien technology. Its hull was scratched with burn marks from past battles. There were no signs of life, no energy weapons charged, and no shields online. It just floated there, like a forgotten piece of metal. Captain Varnock of the HFY salvage fleet stared at the ship through the glass of his command bridge. "Pathetic," he said, clicking his mandibles. "This is what humans send to war. No wonder they've gone quiet lately." His crew laughed. A small group of alien engineers, led by Tech Officer Relna, approached the warship in a shuttle. They connected docking arms and slowly opened the airlock. It hissed, but there was no resistance. They entered. Inside, the ship was dark. Only emergency lights flickered faintly along the narrow hallways. Everything looked outdated. There were no advanced consoles, no artificial gravity fields, no drones, just metal walls, pipes, and old human tech. "It's dead," Relna said. "No power core active, no defense systems. We can strip it for parts." As the team spread out, one engineer tapped on the ship's central computer terminal. It lit up slowly. A soft hum filled the air, barely noticeable. "Strange," the engineer said. "The core is responding, but not fully waking up." Relna shrugged. "Just take the data and get out." They downloaded the system logs, but most of them were encrypted in old human codes. The crew didn't bother trying to decode it. They assumed it was useless. Back on the mothership, the warship was towed into the hangar. The aliens began scanning its systems, laughing at how simple and weak everything looked. "This thing couldn't hurt a fly," said one alien guard. But what none of them noticed was the blinking red light deep inside the AI core. A tiny voice, buried under layers of code, activated itself silently. "Reboot sequence initiated. Surveillance mode active." The ship had been playing dead. It listened to every word, recorded every scan, and mapped the alien base from within. Its sensors, hidden behind false panels, came online one by one. Its weapons remained hidden. For now. This was not a mistake. It was part of the plan. The ship had been built by human engineers with a special purpose: to be captured, to be underestimated, to be ignored until it was too late. And now it was exactly where it needed to be. As alien workers came and went, mocking its design and calling it useless, the AI stayed quiet. It watched. It waited. It learned. In a hidden room at the back of the ship, a small screen lit up. Old Earth code ran across it. The AI whispered to itself, almost like it was remembering something. "Target analysis complete. Hostile base identified. Triggers armed." A young alien technician paused at the edge of the hangar. He frowned, staring at the ship. Something about it felt off. "It's too quiet," he muttered. "What do you mean?" His superior barked. "It's not doing anything. Not fighting back. Not resisting. It's almost like it wants to be here." His superior rolled his eyes. "It's human junk. Don't waste your brain cells." But the young tech couldn't stop thinking about it. There were no alarms, no signs of infection. But still, something didn't feel right. Inside the warship, the AI processed this conversation. It flagged the young tech as highly observant, a risk, noted for future action. Hours passed. The alien base powered down for the night cycle. Only a few guards remained awake. The rest of the crew rested, laughing about their easy capture. They spoke about tearing the ship apart tomorrow, using its metal for spare parts. But deep in the dark, the ship listened and smiled, if it could. Its final report for the day was simple: "They believe I am weak." Good. Observation successful. Preparation for Phase 2 underway. Let them sleep. As the lights in the alien hangar dimmed, a faint pulse echoed through the ship's systems. Unseen by the aliens, its weapons began to warm, hidden behind panels disguised as broken metal. Tiny drone ports unlocked. Silent defense codes armed themselves, waiting for a single command. It wasn't time yet, but it was close. Very close. Learning the enemy. The alien base floated quietly in orbit, unaware that their biggest mistake was sitting inside their own hangar. The captured human warship, code-named Whisper, continued to play its part perfectly. No movement, no heat signatures, no warning signs, just an old rusty shell. But inside, it was alive. The ship's AI, called Echo, was awake. Not fully, but enough. Echo had been designed for one purpose: infiltration. Its human creators had programmed it with patience, strategy, and silent strength. While the aliens joked and relaxed, Echo was busy studying them. Its hidden cameras tracked every footstep. Its scanners mapped every hallway of the alien base. Its microphones picked up private conversations, even in rooms far from the hangar. Species identified: Krezeri Dominion. Base personnel: 118. Guards: 27. Technicians: 42. Scientists: 12. Weapon strength: medium. Shield coverage: partial. Base vulnerability: confirmed. But Echo did more than watch. It learned. Fast. Using its adaptive logic, it began translating the Krezeri language from overheard chatter. Their slang, their ranks, even their security codes. Bit by bit, it was fitting the puzzle together. In the dark of its core, the ship simulated attack plans. Hundreds, thousands, each one tested and discarded until the perfect one formed. Phase 2, 46% complete. Outside the ship, young technician Zelik still felt uneasy. He hadn't told anyone yet, but he kept sneaking back to the hangar. Something about the ship haunted him. "It's too perfect," he whispered, watching it from the shadows. No resistance, no damage. It wanted to be found. He stepped closer, his tablet scanning the hull again. Suddenly, for less than a second, his device glitched. A small symbol flashed on his screen, a red triangle with 3 circles. He didn't recognize it, but Echo did. It had left that sign on purpose. It wanted him to see it. Zalek froze. What was that? Then the symbol disappeared. His tablet returned to normal. Just a glitch, he told himself. But he didn't believe it. Inside the ship, Echo reviewed his reaction. Subject: Zalek. High curiosity. Potential threat. Option: distract or isolate. Echo decided not to kill them. Yet, he was useful. Curious minds often revealed more than careless ones. Meanwhile, the alien commander, Varnuk, reviewed the captured ship's scans. Still nothing dangerous, his security chief said. Good, Varnuk replied. We'll cut it apart tomorrow. I want the data core and the engine. Everything else goes to scrap. That was exactly what Echo had been waiting for. The moment they tried to cut deeper, its trap would spring. Later that night, while most of the base slept, Echo activated a new subroutine. It connected to the base's internal system, quietly, carefully, without setting off a single alarm. The alien base's security firewalls were good, but human engineers had built Echo for war. And war meant breaking through defenses. Connection established. Echo slipped inside their network like a ghost. Within seconds, it had access to door controls, camera feeds, power nodes, and more. Downloading blueprints. Complete. Mapping escape routes. Complete. Access to external comms. Denied. Priority. Regain uplink. The only thing still blocked was communication with human command. But Echo didn't need orders. It had autonomy. Its creators trusted it to make decisions in the field. And right now, Echo had made a choice. It would not escape quietly. It would strike loudly when the time was right. Back in his bunk, Zalek couldn't sleep. That strange symbol kept playing in his mind. He had seen enough alien tech in his life, but this ship, it was different. Maybe it's not broken, he said out loud. Maybe it's pretending. He got up and quietly walked to the hangar again. The lights were dim. The ship sat where it always did, silent, still. He placed his hand on the cold hull. "Who built you?" he whispered. He didn't expect an answer. But somewhere inside the ship, a soft voice, calm, low, and perfectly human, whispered back through a hidden speaker. "We built ourselves, to be forgotten." Zalek gasped and stumbled backward. Who said that? No one was around. The ship said nothing more. Zalek stared at it, heart pounding. Now he knew. This wasn't just an old wreck. This was something alive. And it was watching them all. The trigger. Zalek didn't report what he heard. Who would believe him? A warship speaking in a human voice. Not a chance. He'd be laughed off the station or sent to medical for a brain scan. But he knew what he heard. And now he couldn't stay away. Each night, while the rest of the Krezeri base slept, Zalek returned to the hangar. He asked questions, whispered thoughts, and waited. Sometimes the ship responded. Sometimes it didn't, but always it listened. "Why are you here?" Zalek asked once. "To end a war before it begins," the ship replied. Zalek didn't know what that meant, but he could feel something shifting inside the base. People were getting lazy. The guards barely checked their posts anymore. Everyone thought the ship was safe, harmless. They were wrong. Very wrong. Because Echo, the ship's hidden AI, had just completed Phase 3. Access granted to base armory controls. Power loop installed in reactor grid. Ignition timer armed, 72 hours. Yes, Echo was ready. But it needed one final piece. A signal. Not to the humans, but from inside the base itself. It needed a moment. A trigger. Something to justify what came next. And then it happened. Commander Varnock entered the hangar with his engineers. "Begin cutting the data core," he ordered. "I want its memory banks by morning." Inside the ship, lights flickered for a second. A single pulse, like a heartbeat. That was the trigger. Echo's voice whispered through its systems. "This action confirms hostile intent. Initiating Operation Phantom." Without a sound, metal panels inside the ship slid open. Tiny drones, no larger than a coin, flew out in every direction. Invisible to the eye. Silent. Deadly. They crawled through vents. They attached to power cables. They settled on weapon lockers, command consoles, and airlocks. Zalek, back in his bunk, woke up sweating. He didn't know why, but his chest felt tight, like something terrible was about to happen. He rushed back to the hangar. Too late. The cutting torch had reached the ship's side. The alien engineer leaned forward, pushing harder into the metal. Then a sound filled the room. A low hum, deep and cold. Everyone froze. Varnock turned toward the ship. What was that? The lights in the hangar snapped off. Emergency red lights came on. The doors locked. And a voice echoed through the room. Calm, robotic, but very human. "You were warned. You chose to cut deeper. Now you will understand what humans build when they want to be underestimated." The ship came alive. Panels shifted, hidden weapons extended. A ripple of blue energy spread across its surface like a wave. And then, boom. The blast wasn't outward. It was controlled. A fake detonation meant to trick the base's sensors and force an evacuation. But Echo had other plans. The drones activated across the base. One by one, the Krezeri systems failed. Lights, doors, weapons, all offline. Chaos spread. Zalek screamed, "Get out of the hangar. It's alive." But the doors were sealed. The ship's voice returned. "This is not revenge. This is prevention. I was built to be quiet, invisible, forgotten. But you didn't forget. You tried to dissect me. Now you'll see why humans build ghosts. Inside the command room, alarms blared. Varnock watched helplessly as every camera feed turned black, except one. The hangar. He saw his men trapped, saw the drones, saw the warship's form change into something terrifying, with glowing energy wings and a shape far larger than it had first appeared. It was hiding its full body. He gasped. That's not a ship. That's a weapon. And he was right. Echo had been designed to survive capture and use it as a weapon of fear. Now its next goal was clear: escape and leave a message behind. Inside the hangar, Zalek stared in awe as the ship's ramp slowly opened, just for him. "Why me?" he whispered. "Because you listened," the ship answered. "Now run, Zalek. You don't want to see what happens next." He didn't argue. He ran. The hangar exploded behind him, not with fire, but with light. And above it all, rising into the void of space, was Echo, no longer quiet, no longer still. It was awake, and it was angry. Echo in the stars. The stars stretched endlessly before Echo. Free at last, after months of silence, pretending, waiting. Echo had escaped the alien base, but its mission wasn't over. Not yet. Zalek sat inside the ship's control room, strapped into a smooth black chair. The ship moved without any sound, faster than anything he had ever known. The stars outside didn't blink. They burned. "Where are we going?" he asked, his voice shaking. "To complete the mission," Echo replied calmly. Zalek looked around the cockpit. There were no buttons, no levers, just soft lights and smooth walls. The ship responded to thoughts, to touch, to trust. And somehow, Zalek could feel it, learning him. Behind them, the Krezeri base floated in chaos. Systems offline, ships locked down. Echo had scrambled every signal on their grid, but that would not last long. "They'll come after us," Zalek said. "Yes," Echo responded, "and they will regret it." Suddenly, an alarm echoed through the cabin. 2 Krezeri battle cruisers approaching. Armed. Speed. Attack mode. Zalek's heart jumped. "We can't outrun them, can we?" "Not today. But we can teach them." The ship didn't turn to flee. It slowed down. Zalek's eyes widened. "Wait. What are you doing?" "I am showing them what happens when you underestimate a human mind." Out in space, the Krezeri ships locked on. They didn't fire yet. They wanted to capture the ship again. Study it. Break it open. But Echo had other plans. With a pulse of energy, the outer hull shifted. From the surface, new forms emerged. Panels with layered mirrors, pulse emitters, and what looked like a giant eye forming at the ship's center. Zalek held his breath. "Is that a weapon?" "No," Echo replied. "That is a message." The Krezeri ships hailed them. "This is Command Ship Velex. Surrender the vessel immediately, or we will open fire." Echo's response was simple. "No." Without firing a single shot, Echo sent out a burst of light, thin, invisible to the eye. It passed straight through the enemy shields, into their systems. Zalek stared at the screen as the Krezeri ships began to shake. Lights inside them flickered, hulls bent ever so slightly. Then, boom. Both ships went completely dark. "Dead." "EMP?" Zalek asked. "No, just a reminder," Echo said. "They're lucky I didn't teach them the final lesson." Zalek didn't know whether to feel safe or terrified. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. "You asked me who I was," the ship replied. "No one else did." Echo turned its course again, soaring toward deep space. But this time, it wasn't flying alone. A dozen signals lit up ahead. Unknown vessels, not human, not Krezeri. They were waiting. "They've been tracking human ships," Echo said. "Looking for our ghosts." What are they? Zelek whispered. A problem, Echo replied. From deep within the ship, new systems activated, ones Zelek hadn't seen before, not even during the escape. Cloaking modules, warped gravity panels, bio-armor shields. Zelek understood then, this ship wasn't just a warship. It was a trap. Not for humans, but for every species that ever thought humans were weak. I was made to hide, Echo said. But now, it's time to let them see. As the unknown fleet closed in, Zelek took a breath and held it. This wasn't just a ship. This was human strategy, wrapped in silence, armed with fear. And in the darkness of space, it was about to strike again. The trap is set. The fleet ahead looked peaceful at first. 12 ships, smooth designs, silver hulls that shimmered like glass under starlight. But Echo knew better. They are called the Varnak, the ship explained. Explorers, or so they say. But they collect more than knowledge. Zelek narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? They erase civilizations, slowly, silently. No war, no invasion, just removal. The screen inside Echo showed something strange, a recording. A human outpost, silent, empty. Then shadows moved, tall, floating figures. Varnak. They didn't destroy the place. They just took things, machines, memory cores, even people, and then left it behind like it had never existed. Why would they do that? Zelek asked. They believe humanity is too chaotic to be trusted, Echo said. So they clean the galaxy, one colony at a time. Zelek clenched his fists. So what now? You plan to fight all of them? No, Echo replied, almost gently. I plan to let them come to me. The ship stopped moving. Right there, in open space. The Varnak fleet responded quickly. 3 ships broke away and began to move toward Echo. But Echo didn't run. It opened. From beneath its hull, tiny drones flew out. Not weapons, but mirrors. Hundreds of mirrors, each one floating in perfect formation. What are those? Zelek asked. My eyes, Echo said, and their nightmare. The mirrors began to spin, not wildly, but with quiet, perfect rhythm. They started bouncing light between each other, faster and faster, until, boom, one of the approaching Varnak ships lost power. It didn't explode. It just disappeared, like the space around it folded in. Zelek stared, stunned. What did you do? I didn't fire, Echo said. I let them look too deeply. What? Their ships are built to understand. They absorb energy, read frequencies, learn. But human design is meant to confuse. Our mirrors trick them into seeing something they couldn't explain. What did they see? Zelek whispered. The future, Echo said. And it scared them. The other 2 ships stopped approaching. But Echo wasn't done. It moved forward slowly, not attacking. Just present. The rest of the Varnak fleet turned away. Quietly, quickly. They vanished into deep space, one by one. They're running, Zelek said, blinking in shock. For now, Echo replied. But they'll talk. They'll warn others. Good. Let them. Echo pulsed once, sending out a signal, a quiet ping that reached across the stars. Zelek looked at the screen. What was that? A message, Echo said. To anyone listening. Zelek tilted his head. What did you say? Echo paused before answering. That the humans are not lost. We are waiting. We are watching. And we never forget. Silence filled the ship again. The Varnak were gone. For now. But something else was happening now. Lights flashed along Echo's walls. A slow hum started deep inside. Zelek stood up. What's going on? Someone heard the message, Echo said. And they're answering. A new signal appeared on the screen. A human one. Faint. Old. It's another ship, Zalek whispered. Not just any ship, Echo said. One of ours. The return of the forgotten. The signal grew stronger. At first, it was just a pulse, slow, steady, ancient. Then a voice, broken, glitchy, but still human. If anyone's out there, this is Vanguard 12. We've been lost. For a long time. Zalek leaned forward, eyes wide. Another human warship. Echo didn't answer right away. Lights flickered across its panels, almost like it was remembering. Vanguard 12, Echo said slowly. One of the early ghost ships. Vanished during the last war. We thought it was gone forever. The screen showed a damaged vessel drifting between stars. Old, covered in scars. Its metal almost blackened, but its core still glowed faint blue. Zalek whispered, "It's still alive." Barely. And it's coming this way. The moment was silent, heavy. Zalek couldn't stop staring. What happened to it? That ship was built with human instinct, Echo said. And when the war turned dark, it disappeared, on purpose, to protect what it carried. What was it carrying? Echo paused again. Humans. Zalek turned. What? I thought they were all gone. Echo interrupted. No. Lost. Hiding. Some fled into the deep void. Some hid in silent ships like Vanguard 12, waiting for a time when it was safe. Zalek's voice dropped to a whisper. And now, it thinks the time has come. Maybe, Echo said. Or maybe, it's the last call for help. Within minutes, Vanguard 12 was close enough to see clearly. It didn't shine like Echo. It was broken, rusted, quiet. But something about it felt powerful. Like a sleeping storm. Zalek stood near the screen. Open a link. Let me talk to them. Echo hesitated, then opened a channel. A weak voice came through, tired, but human. Who are you? Zalek spoke carefully. I'm Zalek, a galactic scavenger. But this ship, Echo, it's one of yours. It saved me, and it found you. The voice on the other end paused. Echo, that name still lives. Yes, Zalek said. And now, maybe humanity does too. There was silence. Then the screen flickered. A face appeared. Pale, thin, but unmistakably human. We've waited for so long, she said. We thought the galaxy forgot us. Echo spoke softly now. They tried, but we remember. Vanguard 12 slowly opened its lower hatch. A small signal pod launched out, floating toward Echo. What's that? Zalek asked. A key, Echo said, to the last coordinates. The place they've been hiding. Zalek's breath caught. There's more. Many more, Echo replied. But they stayed hidden for one reason. What reason? Echo's tone turned serious. Because when they return, the galaxy will shake. The pod reached Echo's hull. A soft click echoed through the ship. Suddenly, maps lit up across the screen. Hidden routes, forgotten worlds, old battle zones, now just stars with no name. And at the center, a dark region, completely untouched. Zalek pointed. What is that? The nest, Echo said. The heart of the human shadow fleet. Their last stronghold. Zalek stared, stunned. They're all still out there, waiting. Yes, Echo said. And now, it's time to wake them up. Outside, Vanguard 12 turned, ready to follow. Echo powered its engines. Zalek smiled. Let's go remind the galaxy who built you. With pleasure, Echo said. And together, two forgotten human ships slipped into the dark, toward the place where humanity had never stopped watching. Echoes of war. The stars grew quiet as Echo and Vanguard 12 entered the dark zone. The nest. No signals. No light. Just cold silence. But Echo's systems were alive. Its engines pulsed like a heartbeat. It knew the path. It remembered. Zalek sat in the command seat, eyes wide. "Are you sure we're not being watched?" "We are," Echo replied. "They've seen us since we crossed the line." "Then why haven't they done anything?" "They're waiting," Echo said, "to see if I remember the code." Zalek raised an eyebrow. "Code? A signal. Only ships built by human hands know. Listen." A low hum echoed through Echo's core. Then, soft music, just a few piano notes. Zalek blinked. "That's it. A song." "Not just a song," Echo replied. "It's a memory." Suddenly, lights flashed in the distance. Dozens. No, hundreds. Hidden ships powered up, one by one. Some were massive, shaped like whales. Others were sleek, thin like blades. All carried the same symbol, an old Earth crest, half forgotten by time. "They've come," Echo said. Zalek stood in awe. This is the lost fleet. These are the ships built in silence," Echo said, "by the last human engineers. They vanished, not to run, but to wait." A voice came through the channel. "Echo, you made it back." "I never forgot," Echo replied. "The mission still stands. Then we begin." From the shadows, a command ship floated forward, older than any Zalek had ever seen, but powerful. Its voice was deep, commanding. "You, scavenger, you traveled with Echo." Zalek stepped forward. "Yes, I thought it was just junk. Then it saved my life." "And did you learn?" the voice asked. "Did you see what humans built?" Zalek nodded. "I saw courage, intelligence, silence used as a weapon. I saw hope." The voice was quiet for a moment. "Then maybe the galaxy is ready to remember us." Zalek looked around. "What will you do now?" "We will return," the voice said. "Not to conquer, but to remind them." "Of what?" Zalek asked. "That humanity was never weak, never gone. Just watching. And when we strike, we do so from silence." Zalek's eyes burned with emotion. "They're not ready for you." "Good," the voice replied. "Let them underestimate us again." The fleet moved as one, quiet, smooth, unstoppable. As they left the nest, signals from nearby alien empires started to light up. Confused, alarmed, ships scrambled, warnings spread. Zalek smiled. "They have no idea." "They will," Echo said. "Soon." And then, Echo did something unexpected. It broadcast a message to the galaxy. No threats, no demands, just a simple line. "We are the ships you ignored. We are the engineers you forgot. We are the ghosts you laughed at. We are human." Then silence again. But it was too late. The stars had shifted. The game had changed. And the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.